She cared for the one who destroyed her, and found a love that even hatred couldn't kill. The room smells of disinfectant and regret. Margaret lies in the hospital bed, her body a broken monument to time and consequences. Her left side refuses to obey her brain. Her mouth twists when she tries to speak. The nurses come and go with mechanical politeness, but their eyes betray disgust, not for her condition, but for the woman she was. She hears footsteps approaching, soft, deliberate, familiar. The door opens slowly, and a figure enters wearing a simple caregiver's uniform, brown hair pulled back, calm eyes that once held nothing but tears. Margaret's working eye widens. Her throat produces a strangled sound that might be a word or a scream. "You!" Laura sets down her medical bag and approaches the bed. Her hand, steady, warm, rests gently on Margaret's paralyzed one. "Yes," she says, her voice like still water after a storm. "I came to take care of you." The camera rises slowly, capturing the woman who was once thrown out like trash, now standing as an angel over her tormentor. Laura Mendez was 24 when she married Andre Costa. She was a literature teacher at a public school, the kind of woman who believed that love could build bridges over any abyss. She wore dresses from thrift stores and smiled with her whole face. She read poetry aloud and danced in the kitchen while cooking. Andre was an architect, quiet and introspective, with kind eyes that seemed to apologize for the world. When he proposed, Laura thought she had found her safe harbor, but marriage didn't bring her into a home. It delivered her into a cage. Margaret Costa, Andre's mother, was a woman carved from ice and judgment. A widow who had built an empire of real estate and bitterness. She believed that love was weakness, and that Laura, poor, simple, common, was a parasite feeding on her son's future. From the first day, Margaret made it clear, Laura would never be enough. She criticized Laura's cooking, her clothes, her laughter. She forbade her from touching family heirlooms. She spoke to her in third person, even when Laura stood in the same room. And Andre? He said nothing. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Laura was 3 months pregnant. She had just told Margaret the news, hoping, foolishly, desperately, that a grandchild might soften the old woman's heart. Instead, Margaret accused her of trapping Andre, called her a gold digger, a liar, a stain on the family name. Then she pointed at the door. "Get out of my house, and take that bastard with you." Laura left that day with nothing but her dignity and a child growing inside her. She never came back. Until now. 15 years have passed since Laura walked through that door in tears. Now she walks through it again, but as a stranger in uniform carrying a medical kit and a mandate from the home care agency. The house is exactly as she remembers, yet completely different. The walls still wear the same cream-colored paint, but it has yellowed with age. The chandelier in the foyer, once a symbol of Margaret's wealth, is covered in dust. Family portraits hang crooked on the walls, their subjects frozen in expressions of cold perfection. Laura's footsteps echo on the marble floor. The housekeeper, Donna Celia, a woman in her 60s with tired eyes, greets her at the entrance. "You're the new caregiver?" Celia asks, suspicion laced in her voice. "The others didn't last a week." "I know," Laura replies calmly. "I'm here to stay." Celia studies her face, then shakes her head. She's impossible, throws things, refuses medicine, screams when she can scream. "You'll see." Laura says nothing. She simply follows Celia up the wide staircase toward the master bedroom. The door opens and the smell hits her first. Stale air, old perfume, something sour underneath. The heavy curtains are drawn, trapping shadows inside. A single lamp glows weakly in the corner, and there in the center of the room lies Margaret Costa. She is smaller than Laura remembers, fragile. Her once commanding presence has collapsed into the body of an elderly woman ravaged by stroke. Her left arm lies limp at her side. Her mouth droops slightly. Her hair, once perfectly styled, is thin and brittle, but her eyes are still sharp. They lock onto Laura the moment she enters. For a long, suffocating moment, neither woman moves. Then Margaret's mouth opens. A garbled sound emerges, half word, half groan. "You..." Laura sets her bag down on the nightstand and approaches the bed. She adjusts the pillows with practiced efficiency, lifts Margaret's head gently, and smooths the blanket over her chest. "Yes," Laura says softly. "It's me." Margaret's face contorts. Her good hand grips the bedsheet. She tries to speak again, but only saliva escapes her lips. Laura wipes it away with a tissue, her movements tender and precise. "You don't have to say anything," Laura continues. "I'm not here for explanations, I'm here to take care of you." Margaret's eye fills with something Laura can't quite name. Rage, confusion, shame, fear, all swirling together in a storm she can no longer express. Laura pulls up a chair and sits beside the bed. She opens a medical chart and begins taking notes. Blood pressure, heart rate, medication schedule. "The agency said you've been through 5 caregivers in 2 months, Laura says without looking up. "They also said you've stopped eating properly, that you refuse physical therapy, that you won't take your pills." Margaret turns her head away. Laura closes the chart and leans forward. "I'm not going to force you to do anything, Margaret. But I am going to be here every day, whether you like it or not." She stands, smooths her uniform and walks to the window. She pulls the curtains open. Sunlight floods the room, harsh and unforgiving. Margaret flinches. "You've been living in the dark long enough," Laura says quietly. Then she leaves the room. Downstairs, Donna Celia is waiting. "Well?" the housekeeper asks. "She'll be fine," Laura replies. Celia snorts. "You don't know her like I do." "You're right," Laura says, her voice steady. "I know her differently." That night, Laura sits alone in the small guest room where she'll be staying. She unpacks her suitcase, a few changes of clothes, a framed photo of her son, Lucas, at his school graduation, and a worn copy of Jane Eyre. She opens the book to an underlined passage. "I would always rather be happy than dignified." She closes her eyes and remembers the girl she used to be, the one who chose love over dignity, again and again, until there was nothing left to choose. But that girl is gone. The woman who remains knows that dignity is not the opposite of happiness. It is its foundation. Upstairs, in the dark bedroom, Margaret lies awake, staring at the ceiling. Her mind is a hurricane of fragmented thoughts. She cannot form the words, but the feelings crash against her skull like waves. Why is she here? Why would she come back? What does she want? And beneath it all, a deeper, more terrifying question. What does she know? Margaret's good hand trembles. She reaches toward the nightstand, knocking over a glass of water. It shatters on the floor. No one comes. She is alone, and for the first time in her life, Margaret Costa is afraid. The first week is a silent war. Margaret refuses to eat. When Laura brings breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice, Margaret turns her head away. When Laura offers medication, Margaret clamps her mouth shut like a child. Laura never loses her patience. She simply sets the tray down, checks Margaret's vitals and says, "I'll leave it here in case you change your mind." By the 3rd day, the eggs are cold and untouched. Laura scrapes them into the trash without comment. On the 4th day, Margaret knocks the tray off the table with her good hand. The plate shatters. Orange juice pools on the hardwood floor. Laura cleans it up in silence, her face unreadable. Donna Celia watches from the doorway, shaking her head. "She's testing you," the housekeeper says. "She wants you to quit." "I know," Laura replies, wringing out the mop. "So why don't you?" Laura pauses, then looks up at Celia with eyes that hold 1,000 untold stories. "Because someone has to stay." That afternoon, Laura sits in the bedroom armchair and reads aloud from a novel. Margaret glares at her, but Laura doesn't stop. Her voice is calm, steady, filling the room with words that soften the edges of silence. She reads for an hour, then closes the book. "I used to read to Andre," Laura says, her gaze distant. "When we first met, he said my voice made him feel safe." Margaret's expression twitches. Laura stands and walks to the window, looking out at the overgrown garden below. "He stopped asking me to read after we moved in here. I think he was afraid you'd hear us, afraid you'd mock him for it." She turns back to Margaret. "I wonder if he ever felt safe again after that." Margaret's eye glistens with something that might be tears. Laura doesn't wait for a response. She leaves the room, closing the door softly behind her. That night, Celia knocks on Laura's door. "She ate," the housekeeper says, disbelief in her voice. "Not much, but she ate." Laura nods. "Good. How did you—" "I didn't do anything," Laura interrupts gently. "She did." The following morning, Laura arrives with a new routine. She opens the curtains first, letting light reclaim the room. Then she helps Margaret sit up, propping pillows behind her back. "We're going to do some exercises," Laura announces. "Nothing hard. Just moving your arm, stretching your fingers." Margaret grunts in protest. "I know it's uncomfortable," Laura says, "but if you don't move, your muscles will forget how." She takes Margaret's paralyzed hand in her own. It's cold, lifeless. Laura begins to massage it gently, working each finger, each joint. Margaret watches her with an expression that borders on confusion. "Why are you doing this?" The words come out garbled, barely intelligible, but Laura understands. She meets Margaret's gaze. "Because I know what it's like to be powerless." The weight of that sentence hangs in the air. Laura continues the exercises in silence. Margaret doesn't resist. Later that day, Andre calls. Celia answers, then reluctantly hands the phone to Laura. "He wants to know how his mother is doing," Celia says with barely concealed contempt. Laura takes the phone. "Hello, Andre." There's a long pause on the other end. "Laura." His voice is disbelief, wrapped in guilt. "What are you doing there?" "Taking care of your mother." "But why? After everything, your mother needs care, Andre." "That's all that matters right now." Another pause. Heavier. Is she okay?" "She's stable. Improving slowly. I should come visit." "You should," Laura agrees. "But only if you're ready to actually be here. She doesn't need another person who shows up out of obligation." The line goes quiet, then, "I'm sorry, Laura, for everything." "I know," she says softly, "but your apology belongs to someone else." She hangs up before he can respond. That evening, as Laura helps Margaret into her nightgown, the old woman's good hand suddenly grips Laura's wrist. Their eyes meet. Margaret's mouth trembles. She's trying to form words, but they won't come. Frustration clouds her face, then something else. Something raw and unguarded. Tears. Laura doesn't pull away. She doesn't offer empty comfort. She simply holds Margaret's gaze and lets the moment breathe. "It's okay," Laura whispers finally. "You don't have to say it yet." Margaret's grip loosens. The tears fall. And for the first time in 15 years, the woman who destroyed Laura's life is held by the only person who refused to abandon her. Memory is a ghost that visits without warning. It happens on a Tuesday morning while Laura is helping Margaret transfer from the bed to the wheelchair. Laura's hands grip Margaret's fragile body, one arm around her waist, the other supporting her weight. The old woman's breath is labored, her muscles weak from disuse. "On 3, Laura instructs. 1, 2, 3. They lift together, and for a moment Margaret is suspended between the bed and the chair, completely dependent on Laura's strength. And in that moment, Laura remembers. 15 years ago. The same house, a different room. Margaret's hands, strong then, merciless, pushing against Laura's shoulders. "Get out!" Laura stumbling backward, her hand instinctively protecting her still flat belly. "Please, Get out!" The physical force of it, the shock, the realization that no words would save her. Margaret's face twisted with contempt as Laura gathered her things through tears. The sound of the door slamming shut, the rain outside, the emptiness. Laura blinks, and she's back in the present. Margaret is seated safely in the wheelchair, breathing heavily, unaware of the memory that just flooded Laura's mind. Laura's hands are still on Margaret's shoulders, the same shoulders she once pushed. Laura looks down at them, these hands that once rejected her, that now depend on her for everything. Hands that cannot feed themselves, cannot dress themselves, cannot push anyone away anymore. Margaret looks up, and their eyes meet. There's something in Margaret's expression, awareness perhaps, a flicker of recognition that Laura has just relived something painful. Laura's eyes glisten, but she doesn't look away. "I remember," Laura says quietly. "Everything." Margaret's face crumples, her mouth opens, struggling to form words that her broken brain cannot produce. A sound emerges, half sob, half groan. Laura kneels down so they're eye level. "I remember how you pushed me," Laura continues, her voice steady despite the tears now falling. "I remember the rain. I remember sleeping in my car that night because I had nowhere to go. I remember calling Andre over and over, and him never answering." Margaret's good hand reaches out, trembling, touching Laura's face. "I remember giving birth alone," Laura whispers, "holding my son for the first time and wishing his father was there, wishing his grandmother would want to meet him." The tears come harder now, from both women. "I remember everything," Laura says, "and I came back anyway." Margaret's mouth moves soundlessly. Then, with immense effort, a single word emerges. "Why?" Laura takes Margaret's hand and holds it against her own heart. "Because hate would have killed me," she says. "And I chose to live." The room falls into a profound silence. Outside, birds sing. The sun filters through the curtains. Time moves forward, indifferent to human pain. But inside this room, something ancient and heavy begins to shift. Laura wipes her eyes and stands. "Let's get you to the garden," she says, her voice returning to its professional calm. "The fresh air will do you good." She wheels Margaret through the house, down the ramp that was recently installed, and out into the garden. It's overgrown and wild. Roses that have bloomed without pruning, grass that reaches mid-shin, a stone fountain covered in moss. Laura parks the wheelchair in a patch of sunlight and sits on a nearby bench. They stay like that for a long time, two women surrounded by beauty that has survived neglect. Margaret's good hand rests on the armrest, fingers twitching slightly. Whether from nerve damage or emotion, Laura cannot tell. After a while, Laura speaks. "I used to come out here when Andre was at work. I'd sit right here and imagine what our life would be like when you finally accepted me. I had this fantasy that you'd invite me to tea one day, and we'd talk about books, and you'd tell me stories about Andre as a child." She laughs softly, bitterly. "Stupid, wasn't it?" Margaret makes a sound, not quite agreement, not quite denial. Laura turns to look at her. "Do you know what the hardest part was? It wasn't that you hated me. It was that Andre let you." Margaret's eye closes. "He loved you more than he loved me," Laura continues, "and I understood that. I did, but it didn't make it hurt less." The silence stretches. Then Margaret's hand moves, slowly, deliberately, reaching toward Laura. Laura watches it approach, this hand that once pointed at the door, now trembling in the space between them. She takes it, and they sit there, hand in hand, while the ghosts of who they were dissolve into who they've become. Laura finds the box by accident. She's cleaning Andre's old room, now a storage space filled with forgotten furniture and sealed boxes, when she knocks over a stack of books. Behind them, tucked into the corner of the closet, is a shoebox bound with twine. She knows immediately that she shouldn't open it. She opens it anyway. Inside are letters, dozens of them, all addressed to her in Andre's handwriting, but none of them have stamps. None of them were ever sent. Laura's hands shake as she unties the first envelope. "Dear Laura, it's been 3 months since you left. Mom says I shouldn't contact you, that it would only make things worse. She says you're probably moved on, that you were never really in love with me anyway. But I dream about you every night. I dream about the way you used to read to me, your voice like music. I dream about your laugh, how it filled every room. I dream about our child, and I wake up hating myself. I wanted to call you 1,000 times. I picked up the phone and dialed half your number before hanging up, because what would I even say? How could I explain that I'm too weak to stand up to my own mother? You deserved better than me. You still do. I'm sorry." Andre Laura's vision blurs. She sets the letter aside and opens another. "Laura, Mom had a stroke last week. The doctors say she'll survive, but she'll never be the same. She asked for you. She can barely speak, but she kept repeating your name over and over. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if you'd even want to know." She writes things down now when her hand works. Yesterday she wrote, "Find Laura. Tell her I'm sorry. But I don't know where you are. I don't even know if you're still in the city. I failed you so completely that I don't even have the right to look for you. I hope you're happy. I hope our child is healthy. I hope you found someone who deserves you. And I hope selfishly that some part of you still remembers me." Andre Laura reads every letter. There are 43 in total, spanning 15 years. Some are short, just a few lines. Others are pages long, filled with regrets and what-ifs and apologies that never reach their destination. The last letter is dated 3 weeks ago. "Laura, I hired a caregiver for Mum today, her 5th one. None of them last. She's impossible, cruel, ungrateful. She refuses help from everyone. And I can't stop thinking that this is her punishment, that karma finally caught up to her. But then I remember that I'm being punished too, because I see her lying there, powerless and alone, and I see you, pregnant and crying in the rain, and I realize they're the same image. We destroyed you, and now we're destroying each other. I don't believe in God anymore, Laura, but if I did, I'd pray that somehow, some way, you found peace, because we never will." Andre Laura sits on the dusty floor surrounded by letters and sobs. She cries for the girl she was, naive and hopeful. She cries for the man Andre could have been. She cries for the child who grew up without a father. And she cries for Margaret, the woman who built walls so high that she suffocated everyone inside them, including herself. When the tears finally stop, Laura carefully places the letters back in the box. She doesn't know what to do with them. Doesn't know if she should tell Andre she found them. Doesn't know if it would change anything. But she knows one thing. Forgiveness is not about erasing the past. It's about refusing to let the past erase you. She takes the box downstairs and places it on the kitchen table. Celia, preparing dinner, notices her swollen eyes. "You okay?" "No," Laura says honestly, "but I will be." That evening, Laura returns to Margaret's room with the box. She sets it on the nightstand without explanation and begins her usual routine, checking vitals, adjusting pillows, preparing medication. Margaret's eye follows the box. "They're letters," Laura says finally. "From Andre. To me. He never sent them." Margaret's breath hitches. "There's one from after your stroke," Laura continues. "He says you asked for me, that you wanted to apologize." Margaret's face contorts with emotion. Laura sits down beside the bed. "Did you?" she asks gently. "Did you really ask for me?" Margaret nods, a single tear sliding down her cheek. "Then I'm here," Laura says. "I'm here now." She opens the box and takes out the most recent letter. "Would you like me to read it to you?" Margaret nods again. Laura unfolds the paper and begins to read aloud. Her voice fills the room, steady, clear, merciful. And as she reads her ex-husband's words, confessing regret, shame, and love that came too late, Margaret closes her eyes and weeps. Because some truths can only be heard when you've lost the power to run from them. Andre arrives on a Sunday. Laura hears the car pull into the driveway and watches from the upstairs window as he steps out, older now, greyer, thinner. He stands in front of the house for a long moment, staring at the door like it might swallow him whole. She doesn't go down to greet him. Celia does, her face a mask of restrained judgment. "She's upstairs," the housekeeper says curtly. "With the caregiver." Andre nods and climbs the stairs with the slow, heavy steps of a man approaching his own sentencing. He reaches the bedroom door and stops. Through the gap, he can see Laura sitting beside his mother's bed, reading aloud from a book. Sunlight streams through the window, illuminating her profile. Still beautiful, still achingly familiar. Margaret's eyes are closed, but her face is peaceful. Andre's throat tightens. He knocks softly. Laura looks up, and their eyes meet for the first time in 15 years. The book falls silent in her hands. Andre steps into the room, and the air seems to thicken with everything unsaid. "Laura," he breathes. "Andre," she replies, her voice neutral. He looks at his mother, then back at Laura. You're taking care of her?" "Yes." "But why? After everything after what because she needed someone," Laura interrupts calmly. "And I was available." Andre's face crumples. "I don't understand. How can you?" "Understanding isn't required," Laura says. She stands and closes the book. "Your mother is doing better. She's eating regularly, doing physical therapy, taking her medication. The stroke affected her left side and her speech, but she's responsive and aware. Her tone is professional, clinical, the voice of a stranger giving a medical report." Andre flinches. Can I talk to her?" "Of course. She's your mother." Laura moves toward the door, but Andre's voice stops her. "Wait, please." She turns. He's crying. "I'm sorry," he says, the words breaking. "God, Laura, I'm so sorry. For everything. For being weak. For choosing her over you. For not being there when you needed me. For not fighting for us. Stop," Laura says quietly. He does. She looks at him. This man she once loved. This man who abandoned her, and feels nothing. Not anger. Not love. Just a profound, tired neutrality. "Your apologies don't change the past, Andre. They only make you feel better about it." I know, but I didn't come here for you," Laura continues. "I came here for her, and maybe for myself, but not for you." The words land like stones. Andre wipes his eyes. "Do you hate me?" Laura considers this. "No," she says finally. "I don't hate you. I just don't need you anymore." She leaves the room, closing the door softly behind her. Inside, Andre stands frozen, staring at his mother. Margaret's eye opens, looking at him with an expression he can't read. "Mom," he whispers, moving to her side. "I'm here. I'm so sorry I haven't." Margaret's good hand lifts slowly and touches his face. Then she does something she hasn't done in years. She smiles. Not a big smile, not a happy one, but a smile nonetheless. Sad, knowing, almost pitying. Andre breaks down, collapsing to his knees beside the bed, sobbing into the blankets. Margaret's hand rests on his head, and her mouth moves soundlessly. If Andre could hear the words her brain is forming, he would hear, "We lost her, and it's my fault." Downstairs, Laura makes tea in the kitchen. Celia sits across from her, studying her face. "You still love him," the housekeeper says. "It's not a question." "I loved who I thought he was," Laura corrects. "That man doesn't exist. Maybe he never did." "And her? Do you love her? Laura pauses, the teacup halfway to her lips. I don't know, but I don't hate her anymore, and maybe that's enough. Celia shakes her head, marveling. You're a better person than me. No, Laura says. I'm just tired of carrying the weight. An hour later, Andrei comes downstairs. His eyes are red, his face hollow. Laura is sitting in the living room, the same room where she once begged Margaret to give her a chance. Andrei sits across from her, keeping distance. Thank you, he says, for taking care of her. Laura nods. Can I ask you something? He continues. You can ask. Our child. Did you have the baby? Laura's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in her eyes. Yes. Andrei's breath catches. Is it a he? Laura says. His name is Lucas. He's 15. Smart, kind, nothing like you. The last 3 words are delivered without malice, just fact. Andrei closes his eyes. Can I meet him? No. Laura, please. He doesn't know you exist, Andrei. I told him his father died before he was born. Because in every way that matters you did. Silence. That's not fair, Andrei whispers. You're right, Laura agrees. It's not fair. Just like it wasn't fair when you let your mother throw me out while I was pregnant. Just like it wasn't fair when you never called, never looked for me, never fought for your own child. She stands. Fair doesn't exist, Andrei. There's only what we do and what we live with. She walks toward the stairs, then pauses. You can visit your mother whenever you want, but don't come here looking for absolution. I'm not a priest, and this isn't a confessional. She ascends the stairs, leaving Andrei alone with his ghosts. That night, Margaret is restless. Laura gives her the evening medication and prepares to leave the room, but Margaret's hand catches her wrist. Laura looks down. Margaret's mouth is working, struggling with enormous effort. Finally, a single word emerges. Stay. Laura hesitates, then pulls the chair closer to the bed and sits. Okay, she says softly. I'll stay. Margaret's hand doesn't let go, and in the darkness of that room, lit only by a small bedside lamp, 2 women who were once enemies hold on to each other like survivors of the same shipwreck. Because sometimes the only way to survive the drowning is to save the person who pushed you in. 3 weeks pass. The house slowly transforms. Laura opens every curtain, letting light reclaim the rooms. She clears away the dust, trims the overgrown garden, repairs the fountain so water flows again. She brings fresh flowers, daisies, because they're simple and honest. Margaret's health improves. She regains some movement in her left hand, enough to hold a spoon, though her grip is weak. Her speech is still labored, but individual words emerge more clearly now. Yes, no, please, thank you. The word she uses most often is Laura's name. Every morning, Laura helps her through physical therapy exercises. Every afternoon, they sit in the garden. Every evening, Laura reads aloud. Novels, poetry, sometimes just the newspaper. One Thursday afternoon, Laura does something unexpected. She walks into the bedroom carrying something covered with a sheet. Margaret watches, curious. Laura removes the sheet, revealing a small electric keyboard. I found this in the storage room, Laura says. I thought maybe you'd like some music. She sits down and places her fingers on the keys. The first notes of Debussy's Clair de Lune float through the room. Gentle, melancholy, heartbreakingly beautiful. Margaret's breath catches. Laura plays from memory, her eyes closed, completely absorbed. The music fills the house like water filling a dry well. Slowly, patiently, bringing life back to dead spaces. When the piece ends, silence lingers like an echo. Laura opens her eyes and finds Margaret crying. I used to play for Andrei, Laura says softly. When we were dating, he said it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever heard. Margaret's good hand lifts slightly, a gesture toward the keyboard. You want to try? Laura asks. Margaret nods. Laura wheels her closer and guides her right hand to the keys. She presses Margaret's finger down on middle C. The single note rings out, pure and clear. Margaret's face trembles with something between joy and grief. Again, Laura encourages. Margaret presses another key, then another. The sounds are random, uncoordinated, but each note is a small victory, a reclaiming of agency, of choice, of being more than a body failing in a bed. Laura sits beside her, guiding her hand, and together they make music that is clumsy and unrehearsed, but somehow more beautiful than perfection, because it is born from brokenness, trying to become whole again. That night, Andrei visits again. He finds his mother and Laura sitting together in the living room, Laura's hand resting on Margaret's, as they watch the sunset through the window. He stands in the doorway, unseen, watching this impossible scene. The woman his mother destroyed, now holding her hand as if it were precious. Something inside him breaks. He thinks of all the years he spent being angry, at Laura for leaving, at his mother for driving her away, at himself for not stopping it. All that wasted energy on rage that changed nothing. And here is Laura, who has every right to be angry, choosing peace instead. He realizes with sudden clarity that he has never been brave. Not once. But Laura has Andre clears his throat softly. Both women turn. Laura's expression remains neutral. Margaret's face brightens slightly, a mother's instinctive response to her son, even now. I brought dinner, Andre says, holding up bags from a local restaurant. I thought, maybe we could eat together. Laura glances at Margaret, who nods almost imperceptibly. All right, Laura says. Let me help her to the table. They eat in the formal dining room that hasn't been used in years. Laura carefully cuts Margaret's food into small pieces and guides her hand when needed. Andre watches this intimate choreography, the patience, the gentleness, and feels like an intruder in his own childhood home. How's Lucas? Andre asks suddenly. Laura's fork pauses mid-air. He's fine. What's he like? Laura sets down her fork and looks directly at Andre. Why are you asking? Because he's my son. Because I've lost 15 years and He's not your son, Laura interrupts, her voice quiet but firm. Biology doesn't make you a father, Andre. Presence does. Sacrifice does. Love does. Margaret makes a sound, a grunt of agreement or regret. It's impossible to tell. Andre's jaw tightens. I want to be in his life. I want to try. Then you'll have to earn it, Laura says. Not with money, not with apologies, with time and proof and the willingness to be rejected until you prove you won't disappear again. I won't disappear. That's what you said when you married me. The words hang in the air like smoke. Andre looks down at his plate. You're right. I have no credibility, but please, give me a chance to build it. Laura studies him for a long moment. I'll think about it, she says finally. But Lucas's well-being comes first. If I think for 1 second that letting you into his life would hurt him, the answer is no. Fair enough, Andre whispers. They finish the meal in silence. Later, after Andre leaves, Laura helps Margaret prepare for bed. As she's brushing Margaret's thin hair, the old woman reaches up and touches Laura's hand. Their eyes meet in the mirror. Margaret's mouth works, fighting for words. Finally, with tremendous effort, wise woman, Laura's eyes glisten. Took me long enough. Margaret shakes her head slightly, then manages one more word. Strong. Laura sets down the brush and kneels beside the wheelchair so they're face to face. You know what's strange? Laura says softly. Taking care of you has healed something in me. Something I didn't even know was still broken. Margaret's good hand cups Laura's face. Sorry, Margaret says, the word clearer than ever before. So, sorry. I know, Laura whispers. I know you are. They stay like that. Two women who were enemies now bound by something deeper than forgiveness. Understanding, perhaps. Or simply the shared experience of surviving their own worst choices. The next morning, Laura wakes to find Margaret already awake, staring at the ceiling. Morning, Laura says, opening the curtains. How are you feeling? Margaret doesn't respond immediately. Then, slowly, she lifts her left hand, the one that had been nearly useless. The fingers wiggle slightly. Laura gasps. Margaret, that's incredible. Margaret's face breaks into a genuine smile, crooked from the stroke but real. Laura rushes to her side. Can you move it more? Try to lift it. With visible effort, Margaret raises her left hand a few inches off the bed. It shakes violently, but it moves. Laura laughs, tears streaming down her face. You're getting stronger. Oh my God, you're getting stronger. Margaret's eyes fill with tears too, and for the first time since her stroke she speaks a complete sentence. Because you, here. Laura takes both of Margaret's hands, the strong one and the weak one, and holds them against her heart. We're both getting stronger, Laura says. That afternoon they have a breakthrough during therapy. Laura is helping Margaret walk with a support frame, something they've been attempting for weeks with limited success. Margaret's legs shake, her left side dragging, but she's determined. 5 more steps, Laura encourages. You can do this. Margaret grits her teeth and pushes forward. 1 step, 2, 3. Her left leg buckles. Laura catches her, supporting her weight. It's okay, Laura soothes. We'll try again tomorrow. But Margaret shakes her head vehemently. Her mouth forms a word. Now. Laura looks at her, sees the fierce determination in her eyes, and understands. This isn't about physical therapy anymore. This is about reclaiming dignity, about proving that she's not defeated. Okay, Laura says. Now, they reset. Margaret grips the frame with both hands, and she walks. 4 steps, 5, 6. Her entire body trembles with effort. Sweat beads on her forehead, but she doesn't stop. 7, 8. Finally, she reaches the wheelchair Laura has positioned at the end of the short walking path. She collapses into it, gasping, exhausted, and triumphant. Laura kneels beside her, gripping her shoulders. "You did it, Margaret! You did it!" Margaret's face is flushed, her breathing labored, but she's laughing. A broken, wheezing sound that might be the most beautiful thing Laura has ever heard. Donna Celia, who has been watching from the doorway, wipes her eyes. "In all my years working here," the housekeeper says, "I've never seen her try so hard at anything." That night, Laura calls her son. "Hi, Mom," Lucas answers. He's 15, his voice recently deepened. "How's the job?" "Challenging," Laura says honestly. "But good. How's school?" "Fine. Boring. The usual." Laura smiles. "I miss you." "Miss you too. When are you coming home?" Laura looks out the window at the garden, now blooming under her care. "I'm not sure yet. The patient needs me a bit longer. Must be pretty important." "She is," Laura says softly. "More than I expected." After they hang up, Laura sits in the darkness of her room, thinking about the strange circularity of life. 15 years ago, she left this house broken and alone. Now she's healing inside it, and healing the woman who broke her. There's a soft knock on her door. "Come in." Celia enters, holding something. A photo album. "I thought you should see this," the housekeeper says. Laura opens it. Inside are photos of Margaret from decades ago, a young woman with dark hair and proud eyes, standing beside a man in a military uniform. "Her husband," Celia explains. "He died when Andre was 5. Car accident." Laura studies the photos. In them, Margaret is smiling, genuinely happy. "She was different then," Laura asks. "Very different. Warm, generous. She used to host dinners for the whole neighborhood." Celia pauses. "But after he died, something in her died too. She became hard. Like she decided love was a weakness she couldn't afford anymore." Laura traces the face of the young Margaret with her finger. "She was protecting herself," Laura murmurs. "At everyone else's expense," Celia says, "including her own." Laura closes the album. "Thank you for showing me this." Celia nods. "I think she wants you to understand her, even if she can't say it." After the housekeeper leaves, Laura returns to Margaret's room. The old woman is awake, watching the shadows on the ceiling. Laura sits beside her bed. "Celia showed me pictures of you and your husband." Margaret's eye shifts to Laura. "You were happy once." Margaret's face contorts, not with pain, but with the weight of memory. "He loved me," she manages. "And you loved him." Margaret nods, tears sliding down her temples. "When he died, you decided never to feel that vulnerable again." Another nod. Laura reaches out and gently wipes Margaret's tears. "But that meant Andre never learned what love looks like when it's not afraid. And he married me expecting I could teach him. But I was learning too." Margaret's hand grips Laura's. "I broke everything." "Yes," Laura says honestly. "You did." Margaret sobs, a raw, guttural sound. Laura doesn't offer false comfort. She simply stays, bearing witness to the grief that Margaret has carried alone for decades. "But here's the thing about broken things," Laura says eventually. "Sometimes they can be made into something new. Not the same, but still beautiful." Margaret looks at her through tears. "Forgive?" she whispers. Laura takes a deep breath. "I'm working on it," she says, "and so are you." She squeezes Margaret's hand. "We're both working on it." The storm comes without warning. One moment the evening is calm, the next the sky splits open with rain and thunder that shakes the windows. Laura is reading in her room when she hears it. A cry from Margaret's bedroom, not pain, fear. She runs down the hall. Margaret is sitting up in bed, her face pale, her body rigid. Lightning flashes outside, illuminating her terrified expression. "It's okay," Laura soothes, rushing to her side. "It's just a storm." But Margaret is shaking violently, her breath coming in short gasps. She's having a panic attack. "Margaret, look at me. Look at my eyes." Margaret's gaze locks onto Laura's. "Breathe with me, in and out. In and out." Laura demonstrates, exaggerating her breathing. Slowly, Margaret begins to mirror her, Thunder crashes again. Margaret flinches, gripping Laura's hand with surprising strength. "I'm here," Laura says firmly. "I'm not leaving." She climbs onto the bed, something she's never done, and pulls Margaret against her chest, wrapping her arms around the trembling woman. "It's just noise," Laura murmurs. "It can't hurt you." They stay like that for minutes, hours. Laura holding Margaret like a frightened child, rocking gently, whispering reassurance. Gradually, the shaking subsides. The storm softens. The thunder moves into the distance, but Margaret doesn't let go, and Laura doesn't ask her to. In the darkness, with rain pattering against the windows, Margaret's voice emerges, broken, raw, but determined. "He died in storm." Laura's breath catches. "Your husband?" "Yes." Rain. Car. Gone. Laura's arms tighten around her. "Andre was 5. Cried for weeks. I'm so sorry. I couldn't cry. Had to be strong." "You don't have to be strong right now," Laura whispers. "Not with me." And something breaks open in Margaret. Years of repressed grief, fear, loneliness flooding out in choked sobs. She cries for her husband, for the woman she used to be, for the walls she built that kept everyone out, including her son. She cries for Laura, for the cruelty, the rejection, the words that can never be taken back. And Laura holds her through it all, this woman who destroyed her life, and lets her cry against her chest like the daughter she never was allowed to be. When the tears finally stop, Margaret is exhausted, her face blotchy and swollen. Laura gently lowers her back onto the pillows and wipes her face with a cool cloth. "Better?" Laura asks. Margaret nods weakly. Then with tremendous effort she begins to speak. The words come slowly, painfully, but with absolute clarity of intent. "I was wrong." Laura sits perfectly still. "You loved him, truly." "Yes. And I saw real love and hated it." "Why?" Margaret's face crumples again. "Because I couldn't anymore. Forgot how." Laura's eyes fill with tears. "When you came young, happy, full of love." Margaret struggles with each word. "For you reminded me what I lost, so you pushed me away." "Yes." Margaret's voice is barely audible. "Pushed love away." Again, silence fills the room, not empty, but full of truth finally spoken. "Andre became like me," Margaret continues. "Afraid, weak, lost. You lost child. My fault." "It was his choice too," Laura says gently. "No, I made him choose. I demanded loyalty, used guilt, made him afraid of disappointing me." She takes a shaky breath. "I destroyed my son to keep him." The admission hangs in the air like a confession before God. Laura doesn't contradict her. She simply listens, bearing witness to the reckoning. "And you," Margaret's good hand reaches up, touching Laura's face. "You came back after everything. Came back." "Yes." "Why?" Laura considers this, the question she's asked herself 100 times. "Because someone had to show you that love doesn't have to be afraid," she says finally. "And maybe because I needed to prove it to myself too." Margaret's fingers trace Laura's cheek, the gesture infinitely tender. "You are what I should have been." "No," Laura says firmly. "I'm what I chose to become despite what happened to me. And you can still choose too." Too late. It's never too late to be kind, to be grateful, to love the people who are still here. Margaret closes her eyes and fresh tears leak out. "Forgive me," she whispers. "Please, forgive this horrible, old woman." Laura takes both of Margaret's hands in hers. "I forgive you," she says clearly. "Not because you deserve it, not because it erases what happened, but because carrying hate was killing me, and I chose to live." Margaret opens her eyes, and in them is something Laura has never seen before. Peace. Fragile, tentative, but real. "Thank you," Margaret breathes. Laura leans down and kisses her forehead, a benediction, a closing of wounds. "You're welcome." She stays until Margaret falls asleep, then quietly leaves the room. In the hallway, she finds Andre sitting on the stairs, his face in his hands. He looks up, eyes red. "I heard," he says. "I heard everything." Laura sits beside him. "She's carried that pain alone for so long," Andre says, his voice breaking. "And I never asked, never tried to understand why she was the way she was." "You were a child when it started," Laura says. "You can't blame yourself for that. but I'm not a child anymore, and I still chose her cruelty over your love. Laura doesn't respond. How do you do it? Andre asks. How do you forgive like that? Laura looks out the window at the rain, now gentle and cleansing. Forgiveness isn't a feeling, Andre. It's a decision you make every day. Some days it's easy, most days it's not. But you choose it anyway because the alternative is poison. Andre nods slowly. Can you teach me? Teach you to forgive? Teach me to be brave, like you. Laura turns to look at him. This man who was once her husband, now a stranger seeking redemption. You start by being honest, she says. With yourself, with your mother, and eventually, if I decide to let you, with your son. Our son. My son, Laura corrects gently. You'll have to earn the our. Andre nods, accepting the terms. I'll do whatever it takes. Then start tomorrow, Laura says, standing. Come for dinner, bring flowers, talk to your mother, ask her about your father, listen to the answers. Will you be there? Yes, but not for you, for her. She walks away, leaving him sitting in the dim hallway, finally beginning to understand the difference between wanting forgiveness and deserving it. 3 days later, Margaret wakes with a strange clarity. Laura notices it immediately. The way Margaret's eyes track her movements with unusual focus, the calmness in her expression. Good morning, Laura says, opening the curtains to a brilliant sunrise. Beautiful, Margaret says, the word clearer than ever. Laura turns, surprised. Your speech, better, today, Margaret says, smiling slightly. Gift, maybe, last, gift. A chill runs down Laura's spine. Don't talk like that, but Margaret shakes her head peacefully. I know. Body knows. Laura sits on the edge of the bed, taking Margaret's hand. You're getting stronger every day. Yesterday you walked 10 steps. Spirit is ready, Margaret says. Heart is light. Now. Laura's eyes fill with tears. Please. Not yet. Margaret squeezes her hand. Read to me. One more time. Laura wipes her eyes and reaches for the book on the nightstand. Jane Eyre. The same copy she's been reading for weeks. She opens to where they left off and begins to read. Her voice is steady despite the tears falling onto the pages. Margaret listens, her eyes never leaving Laura's face, as if memorizing every detail. When Laura finishes the chapter, Margaret speaks again. Call Andre, please. Laura nods and takes out her phone. An hour later, Andre arrives, flowers in hand. Daisies, simple and honest, just as Laura taught him. He enters his mother's room and stops, seeing how Laura is positioned, sitting on the bed, holding his mother's hand. Hi, Mum, he says softly. My boy, Margaret says, her face lighting up. Andre sits on the other side of the bed, setting the flowers on the nightstand. For the first time in decades, the three of them are together in peace. Tell me, Margaret says to Andre, your father. What? You remember? Andre looks surprised. His mother has never wanted to talk about his father before. I remember his laugh, Andre says slowly. It was loud, filled the whole house. Margaret smiles. Yes, and he used to carry me on his shoulders, made me feel like I could touch the sky. He loved you so much. I remember the day he died, Andre continues, his voice thick. You came into my room and told me he was gone. You were so calm, I thought you didn't care. Margaret's face contorts with pain. Cared too much. If I cried, would never stop. So you never started. Yes, wrong. So wrong. Andre reaches for his mother's other hand. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. I'm sorry I taught you to be afraid. They cry together, mother and son, finally bridging years of silence. Laura quietly stands to leave, giving them privacy. No, Margaret says firmly. Stay. You are family, too. Laura sits back down, and Margaret looks between them. You were right for him, she says to Laura. I knew it, feared it. Why? Andre asks. Because she would teach you to love freely, and then you would leave me. I would never have left you, Mom. I know now, but fear doesn't listen to logic. She takes a labored breath. Promise me, she says, looking at both of them. Promise you will try to be family for Lucas. Andre looks at Laura, hope and fear warring in his eyes. Laura is silent for a long moment. I promise to let him try, she says finally. If Lucas wants to meet him, I won't stop it. Thank you, Margaret whispers. They stay like that for hours, talking, crying, remembering. Margaret shares stories of Andre's father, of her own childhood, of dreams she abandoned. As the sun begins to set, Margaret grows tired. Read again, she asks Laura. Laura picks up the book, but Margaret shakes her head. No, the letters. Andre's letters. Andre looks confused. Laura retrieves the box from where it's been sitting on the dresser. You knew, Andre asks his mother. Found them years ago, Margaret admits. Read every one. Cried. Finally, cried. Laura opens the first letter and begins to read aloud. Andre listens to his own words, years of regret and longing, spoken in Laura's gentle voice. When she finishes the last letter, silence settles over the room like snow. Margaret's breathing has become shallow. I'm tired, she says. Rest, Mum, Andre says. We'll be here when you wake up. But Margaret shakes her head slightly. She looks at Laura. Thank you for coming back, for showing me love is stronger than pride. Thank you for letting me, Laura whispers. Margaret smiles, a full, genuine smile that transforms her face. I was wrong about everything, but I die knowing what love really is. She looks at her son. Be brave. This time. I will, Mom, I promise. Good. Her eyes close. Her breathing slows. Laura and Andre sit on either side of her, each holding a hand, as the light fades from the room. At 8:47 p.m., Margaret Costa takes her last breath. It's gentle, peaceful, like falling asleep after a long, difficult journey. Andre collapses against the bed, sobbing. Laura stands, checks for a pulse, then gently closes Margaret's eyes. She places the box of letters on Margaret's chest, along with one of the daisies. Rest now, Laura whispers. You're free. 6 months later, Laura stands in the cemetery, holding a bouquet of white daisies. Beside her is Lucas, tall for 15, with his father's eyes and his mother's strength. They stop in front of a simple headstone. Margaret Helena Costa, 1950-2025. She learned to love when it mattered most. Lucas reads the inscription. Did you choose those words? Your father and I chose them together, Laura says. Lucas is quiet for a moment. Do you ever regret coming back? Taking care of her after what she did to you? Laura considers this as she places the flowers at the base of the headstone. Sometimes, I wish I'd been spared the pain she caused, Laura says honestly. But I don't regret caring for her. It taught me that healing isn't linear, that forgiveness is complex, that people can change, even at the end. Dad says you saved her. No, I just gave her the space to save herself. Lucas nods, absorbing this. He wants to have dinner with us, he says carefully. Next week he asked me to ask you. Laura looks at her son, this young man who has grown up strong and kind despite everything. What do you want? She asks. Lucas thinks about it. I want to know him, but I'm also scared he'll disappoint me. He might, Laura says. People do, but he's trying. That has to count for something. Will you come? To dinner. Laura takes her son's hand. Yes, I'll be there. They stand together in the quiet cemetery, honoring a woman who learned too late that love requires vulnerability. As they walk back to the car, Lucas asks, Mom, do you still love him? Dad, I mean. Laura pauses, looking back at the headstone one last time. I love who we all became through the pain, she says. I love that he's trying to be better. I love that Margaret found peace before she died. And I love you, more than anything. That's not really an answer, Laura smiles. Some questions don't have simple answers, sweetheart. They drive home as the sun sets, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. That night, Laura sits at her kitchen table, her own apartment now, no longer the guest room in Margaret's house, and writes in her journal, I went back to the place that broke me and I discovered something unexpected. The breaking wasn't the end. It was the beginning of becoming someone stronger, wiser, more compassionate than I could have been without the pain. Margaret taught me that hurt people, but she also taught me that healed people can heal people. I forgave her not to give her peace, but to give myself freedom. And in the end, we both found what we were searching for, not in the answers, but in the courage to ask the questions. Some wounds never fully close. They simply transform into places where wisdom grows. I am not the girl who left that house 15 years ago, pregnant and alone. I am the woman who came back and proved that love, real, courageous, unflinching love is stronger than every wall we build to protect ourselves from it. She closes the journal and looks at the photo of her and Lucas on the mantel, smiling. Tomorrow she'll have dinner with Andre. They'll try to build something new from the rubble of what was destroyed. It won't be easy. It might not even work, but she'll try. Because love, the kind that survives betrayal, that grows through pain, that chooses kindness over bitterness, is always worth trying for, even when it costs everything, especially then.